I know a handful of people who are leaving. Not leaving a job, not leaving a neighborhood, planning to leave the country. And honestly, I get it. The US right now, it feels loud, it feels heavy. The cost of everything, the news cycle, the political climate, people are exhausted. And some of them have decided the answer is to start somewhere new. I'm not here to tell you whether to go or stay. That's not my call, that's your life. But here's what I am here to tell you. This decision has massive financial and legal consequences. And most people are finding that out after they've already packed. So today, let's talk about what you actually need to know, the news, the numbers, and who you need to call before you go. Let me start with what's actually happening right now, because it's a bigger story than most people realize. According to the Brookings Institution, the United States had net negative migration in 2025 for the first time in at least half a century. That means more people left the country than moved in. Now, to be precise, Brookings put the range at anywhere from 10,000 to 295,000 net outflow. It's a wide range because the US hasn't tracked comprehensive exit data since the Eisenhower era. But even at that low end, that hasn't happened since the Great Depression. And separately, the Wall Street Journal analyzed data from just 15 countries and found out at least 180,000 American citizens relocated abroad in 2025 alone. The real number globally is almost certainly higher. There's Americans in Lisbon, Dublin, Bali, Berlin, Mexico City, local realtors in one trendy tech neighborhood in Dublin, the area where Google and Meta have their European offices. Say 1 in every 15 residents there was born in the US. In the UK, Americans applied for British passports at the highest rate since record-keeping began. An estimated 40,000 Americans secured Irish passports last year. Now here's the policy move that's made this even more relevant. On March 13th, 2026, the US State Department published a final rule in the Federal Register. The fee to formally renounce your US citizenship, that's the process to legally give it up, was just cut over 80%, from $2,350 down to just $450. That change takes effect April 13th, 2026. Now, I want to be very clear about something. Moving abroad and renouncing citizenship are two completely different things. Most people who moved abroad keep their US passport. But this news matters because it's part of the same conversation. And if you're making a permanent move, you need to understand what that word renunciation actually means. There are really two conversations happening at once. The first is, I want to live somewhere else. The second is, I want to stop being American. Most people only want the first one. But because of how the US tax system works, those two decisions are financially linked in ways that can cost you a lot of money if you're not prepared. Here's the thing. The US is one of only 2 countries in the world that taxes its citizens based on citizenship, not where you live. The other one is Eritrea. That means if you move to Portugal and keep your US passport, you are still required to file US tax returns every single year. Still required to report foreign bank accounts, still subject to US tax law, even if you haven't set foot here in a decade. For most people, that's manageable. There are exclusions and credits designed exactly for this situation. But you have to know they exist, you have to file. And you need someone who specializes in expat tax to help you. Renouncing, which is formally giving up citizenship, ends that ongoing US tax obligation. But it's not a tax escape hatch, not even close. There's a whole exit process the IRS has designed just for this. And it's one of the most permanent decisions a person can make. So let's break down both paths. If you move but keep your passport, here's what it actually means for you. What you keep and what you owe. If you move abroad and keep your US citizenship, here's the deal. You keep your US passport, you can come back whenever you want. You have consular protection if something goes wrong overseas. You can eventually pass citizenship to your kids, but you still file US taxes every year, even from abroad. Now, the good news, the IRS has built in protections to prevent most expats from getting taxed twice. The foreign earned income exclusion lets you exclude up to $132,900 of income earned abroad in 2026 from your US taxes. If you're making a normal salary overseas, that alone might wipe out your US tax bill entirely. And the foreign tax credit means if you're paying taxes to the country you live in, you often get dollar for dollar credit against what you'd owe the US. For most Americans living abroad, those two tools together mean they owe zero to the IRS. But, and this is critical, you still have to file. The return is required, the reporting is required. Non-compliance is a different kind of expensive. Foreign bank account report. If you have more than $10,000 combined in foreign bank accounts at any point during the year, you must file a separate FBAR report with FinCEN. Penalties for missing this are steep, up to $10,000 per violation. This is separate from your tax return, so don't miss it. So the bottom line for the move but keep the passport crowd, you can absolutely build a great life abroad and manage the US tax piece. But you need an expat tax specialist, not your local H&R Block, someone who does this for a living. So if you actually want to renounce your citizenship, this is complicated. Here's what the $450 fee actually gets you and what it doesn't. Okay, so let's talk about the renunciation news, because I know people are seeing that headline and thinking this changes everything. It doesn't, but it matters. The fee dropping from $2,350 to $450 is a real cost reduction. For years, the US had the highest renunciation in the world, roughly 20 times higher than comparable countries. That's gone now. That's a real change. But the fee is just the first step. Here's what else is waiting for you. The 3 requirements before you can renounce. 1, you must be caught up on 5 years of US taxes. 5 years, all of them, before you even walk into the embassy. 2, you must file Form 8854, the expatriation statement, with your final tax return. Missing this or filing it wrong, it carries a $10,000 penalty, and it automatically triggers something called covered expatriate status, which means a lot. 3, the process itself requires in-person appointments at a US embassy or consulate abroad, usually twice. You take an oath, you surrender your passport. Processing takes an average of about 6 months, and wait times at some embassies are already over a year. Remember, renunciation is permanent and it cannot be undone. Next, there's an exit tax, and who actually owes it? This is the piece that scares people, so let me level with you. Most Americans who renounce don't owe this exit tax, but you need to know the rules to know if you're in that group. You become what the IRS calls a covered expatriate. If any one of these 3 things is true, your net worth is over $2 million, your average US tax liability over the last 5 years exceeds $206,000 per year, or you can't certify that you've been tax compliant for the 5 years before you renounce. If you're a covered expatriate, the IRS treats your renunciation like a deemed sale of everything you own on the day you leave. It's called a market-to-market taxation. Everything: retirement accounts, real estate, investments. The good news, in 2026, the first $910,000 of unrealized gains is exempt. But above that threshold, you owe tax on paper gains, even if you haven't sold anything. It's important to know the exit tax is calculated before the renunciation fee. Saving $1,900 on the administrative fee is meaningless if you owe $200,000 in exit tax because you weren't prepared. So get the tax analysis first, always. So here's who you should consider to have on your team. Whether you're moving abroad, considering renouncing, or somewhere in between, here's who you need to talk to before you book the flight, before you sign the lease. An expat tax specialist, not a general CPA. There's a whole subspecialty in tax for Americans living abroad. These are CPAs and enrolled agents who handle FBAR compliance. Form 2555, Form 8854, exit tax analysis, all of it. General practitioners often don't know what they don't know here. Find someone who does this full time. An immigration attorney in the destination country. Getting into the country you want to live in has its own process. Digital nomad visas, passive income visas, retirement visas. Each country has different requirements, income thresholds, and timelines, and they change. An immigration attorney in your destination could be worth every dollar. A financial planner, ideally a fiduciary. This is where I come in. Moving abroad changes your financial plan completely. Your retirement accounts, your social security strategy, how you hold investments, how you pay for healthcare, what happens in your estate if something happens to you overseas. These aren't hypotheticals. These are real questions that need real answers before you go. A fiduciary financial planner, someone who's legally required to act in your interest, not sell you products, should be part of this conversation early on, especially if you have clients or friends moving this summer. The time to get the plan right is before the boxes are packed. Look, I'm not going to tell you that staying is always right or that leaving is always wrong. I grew up in a family that was just trying to get it together. Nobody was talking about wealth strategy or exit planning. We were figuring it out day by day. And what I've learned from doing this work is that the families who end up okay, no matter what they decide, are the ones who got information before they needed it. So if you're thinking about this for yourself, for someone you love, don't wait until the decision is already made. Get the information now, talk to an expat tax specialist, talk to an immigration attorney in the country you're considering moving to. And if you want a financial planner in your corner, someone who's fee only, a fiduciary, and someone not trying to sell you anything, the link is in my bio. I'm Michael Rodriguez with Equanimity Wealth. Remember that calm is possible, so let's build it.